some blood. I'm going to show you some pictures that are not anatomically correct. Okay, this is not anatomically accurate. I hope you kind of caught on. Right? You are not a circle. So tell me what this picture is trying to teach you. What blood does. So from this picture, what does blood do?
Gases exchange.
Yeah, it does gas exchange. What is it? Transport stuff around your body. So this loop of blood is supposed to represent that it can move from one column to the other one. So blood's a transport agent. It carries stuff. It moves stuff. So let's name the things that can move in the upper left. What is the blood transporting in the upper left? Gases. How about in the upper right? Nutrients. Good. What's over here? Waste, right? So everything my body needs to move from point 1 to point 2, I have to put in the blood. Hormones, right? They're made in one gland. They have to go in the blood to get somewhere else. So the goal of your blood is to move stuff around, right? Then next week we'll learn about the heart, which is the pump to get that to happen. Blood is a transporter, right? So let's look at blood. This is not what you're doing next week in lab. You're doing your finger for blood typing, but you're not draining. But let's look at what's in blood. So there's basically 4 things in blood. They're on the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4. From the top down. What's the thing on the top of the tube? Plasma is in blood. What else is in blood?
Leukocytes.
Oh, good. Okay, I heard leukocytes right there. In English, what does leukocyte mean? White blood cell. Okay, so for this class, you can impress me with leukocyte. You can say white blood cell. I'm much happier if we just do WBC and walk away from it. Right? I don't need to hear the big word to understand the concept. Right? So WBC. Okay, what else? What else is on here?
Erythrocytes.
Erythrocyte, which is known as a red blood cell. RBC for this class tonight. Okay, there's one more thing on there. Platelets. Right here. Okay, so there's 4 components to your blood. So I'll blow it bigger. So plasma, white and reds, and platelets. Let's do each one. What's plasma made out of? What is it? Liquid. So you have the liquid part of your blood, then you have the cell part of your blood. All right? Now we're going to figure out what these do. So looking at those 4 things, which one of those does the oxygen gas thing? Red blood cells. These carry oxygen. Their job is to transport oxygen, or the reds. Okay, what do whites do? Immunity. Very good. They don't actually transport anything. They do immunity. Platelets do what? Clotting. So they don't transport anything at all. So therefore, what does plasma do? Transports what?
All the stuff.
Everything else. So if it's not oxygen, it's in the plasma. So your hormones are in the plasma, blood sugar, proteins, waste, they're all going to be in the plasma part. The red blood cells carry oxygen, the other 2 actually don't carry anything. So if you think about your blood, it's plasma doing a lot of work, red cells carrying oxygen, the other 2 things are kind of just doing other jobs. All right, so in this class, we're going to focus on the red cells, mostly. And then we'll talk about the other ones as we get to them. All right? So we're going to talk mostly on red blood cells. All right? So let's look at some red blood cells. Okay, medical terminology, people. So we're at the top of the screen. Tell me what that means. Hemocytoblast. Good, we got the cell part. Good. Good. Cyto. Blast do what? Build, create, like osteoblast. Good. Hemo means blood. So we put that together. Blood cell maker, right? So where is blood cell maker going to be? Where's that? Bone marrow. Very good. So your blood cells, number 2, 3, and 4, those are in the bone marrow. So your bone marrow forms the cells in your blood, hemocytoblast. Surprise, only about 2 of you got that. Right? So let me see if that's true. So this is my bone marrow, aka a marrow stem cell. Okay, there's some cells. Hey, look, reds. These are whites are purple. It doesn't make any sense. And then there are platelets. So my bone marrow cells form all the cells within the bloodstream. Right? Another picture. This is more booky. Here's my hemocytoblast. And if you go down this long bunch of columns, here's everything that's in my blood that's a cell. Reds, whites, platelets. Make sense? So where's the plasma come from?
CSF.
Oh, no one knows where the plasma comes from? No idea. So let's think of things that could be in my plasma. Sugar, water, where do I get those? So you get in the digestive system by doing what? You could say it's eating, it's okay. So mostly that's going to be your diet, right? If you don't drink water, you don't have any liquid in your bloodstream because there's no way to get liquid without drinking it, right? If you eat sugar, it goes in your plasma. So the plasma is basically dietary. The bone marrow controls the cells. Make sense? Or metabolic, right? So we're going to now go through and talk about how the bone marrow is going to make blood cells. And that's on your chart from last week. So your endocrine chart. There's a hormone that controls bone marrow to make blood cells. Which one was that?
EPO.
EPO or erythropoietin. So we're going to make a graph. Should we do it over there? We'll do it over there. It's the same graph, actually. We're going to have to erase it. Right? Just erase it. It's always the same graph, right? So I'm going to do oxygen in the body over time. Same graph. So if you don't have enough oxygen in your body, why would that happen? How could you end up with less oxygen in your body?
Your higher elevation.
Higher elevation would do it. Smoker, right? So you could have problems getting air in, less oxygen in your body. So the oxygen goes down. What does your bone marrow think about low oxygen? Doesn't really like it, right? So what could your body do? What hormone would go up to tell your bone marrow to make more cells? So EPO would go up to make more RBCs. What do RBCs carry?
Oxygen.
So therefore there'd be more oxygen holding in my blood. Therefore the amount of oxygen in my body should go up. I can hold more in my bloodstream. Make sense? I got too much oxygen. What do you think EPO will do? It'll go down. Telling your bone marrow to do what? Reduce the number of RBCs, and therefore you carry less oxygen in your body, therefore you have less over time. Make sense? Okay, so we're going to summarize this for your quiz next week. If you have low oxygen, you increase EPO, which increases RBCs. Tattoo that on your head. Low oxygen makes more EPO, makes more RBCs. Guaranteed to be on your quiz. So now I'm going to show you some pictures, and I'll show you an animation in a minute. So we're going to walk through it. Here's low oxygen in my body. Okay? Turns out I'm going to add a little detail to the graph. What organ detects the oxygen in your body? It's on your chart. Where's the source of EPO? The target was the bone marrow. The source was the
Hippodome.
liver and kidney. Indeed it was. So liver and kidney detect the oxygen. So instead of saying oxygen in the body, we're going to be a little more specific. Your liver and your kidney. Not just any part of the body, but these parts of the body. They detected oxygen's going down. Why? Because we don't know. We just want more blood. So oxygen goes down, they get mad. So they're going to make EPO, erythropoietin. That's a hormone, goes in your blood. Zips around and finds that guy, the red bone marrow. What does bone marrow make? RBCs. What do RBCs carry? More oxygen. To whom? My liver and kidney. So they'll make less over time. All right? Sure, I'm not making this up much. Same thing. Normal blood oxygen. I end up with less for some reason. Liver and kidney get mad. Say EPO, please. Tells the bone marrow to crank out more red blood cells to carry more of my blood, thereby feeding the liver and kidney more air. And therefore, they would then have normal oxygen levels. All right? Okay? I'm showing animation of this process.
Production of erythropoietin, or EPO, is part of hormonal regulation of blood oxygen. Low blood oxygen stimulates kidney cells to secrete EPO. EPO targets precursor erythrocytes in the hemopoietic tissue and causes them to differentiate and proliferate. Increased numbers of mature red blood cells are released into the blood, increasing its oxygen carrying capacity. Blood oxygen level is restored to normal.
So your liver and kidney don't know why you're running low on oxygen. They don't know that you're a smoker or whatever. They assume the only reason you're low on oxygen is you don't have enough blood to carry it to them. So their response is make more blood. That way I get more oxygen. All right, so that's how they're compensating for that, is by just cranking your body with more blood. Make sense? So let's talk about an application of this process. Tell me where every football team goes to train. High altitudes. They go to Denver, right? Other than the tax breaks, there's a reason they go for Denver. Tell me what Denver's like. High altitude, which means it has low amount of bingo. So they know this graph. If you have less oxygen in your body, because I live in Denver, the liver and kidneys are going to crank out more EPO to make more RBCs. Why would athletes want more RBCs? Yeah, good. And why would an athlete care about oxygen carrying capacity? 231, what uses oxygen? Muscles. And if muscles don't have oxygen, they do what? Anaerobic, which is fatigue, which is lactic acid, right? So if I can carry more oxygen in my body, I'm going to have my muscles perform longer before they fatigue. Right? That's the logic of this system. So anyone who goes to higher altitude is going to put more blood. They get less fatigued because they can carry more oxygen. But there's a catch.
How does that relate to smokers?
Well, smokers have a problem. They get more RBCs, but they can't get more oxygen in. So they gain the blood, but they still have a problem loading the oxygen. So they end up not getting the benefit of the higher RBCs. But their blood assumes that they're in Denver. And so it just keeps trying to increase, yeah.
So would they just keep getting more and more
Yeah,
red blood
as they
cells?
get worse and worse, their RBC count goes up and up. Well past normal. So you can tell by someone's blood count if they smoke and lie about it, because the hematocrit would be high. Right? So let's figure out a little trick here. Does anyone know how long it takes from when your oxygen goes down to when the RBCs go back up? The Red Cross knows. Little Red Cross card, how long do they say to wait between donations? About 6 to 8 days.
6 weeks.
About 6 weeks, that's about right. So if you go to Denver tonight, you'll just have a really bad headache. But if you live there longer than a month, your bone marrow has time to compensate and give you more blood. That's why they live in Denver for a season. That way they get the benefit of the long-term response. Right, so if you hold your breath in a tantrum, you will not get more blood. Right? You'll just pass out. But if you live somewhere with no oxygen, then you'll actually gain blood flow. Same thing here. You're going to lose takes about 6 weeks to lose the effect. So the first 2 months of the game, they're running on an advantage. And then they get back to normal. Right? Make sense? So what did remember Lance Armstrong when people cared? What did he buy in the mail? He bought something that got him in trouble.
EPO?
He bought EPO, Epogen. Why would Lance Armstrong want to buy EPO?
More red blood cells.
He wanted to do this, so he got more oxygens without having to go to Denver. Right? So he injected himself with EPO to increase the blood holding capacity. That way he could do biking longer and claim he was a good, healthy person. I don't like him. That's my opinion. Make sense? I'm just jealous they got money. Make sense? So anytime you rob your body of oxygen for a long period of time, this system will compensate. Yes?
Seems like a pretty straightforward evolutionary path.
Yes.
I mean, so why aren't we all running around with higher levels of EPO? Because we'd be able to outrun gazelles pretty easily.
Right. The trick is, as you get more RBCs, the viscosity increases your blood. So there's a trade-off between getting more oxygen and getting the blood harder to pump.
My cousin has a disease that she has too much red blood cells and she has to get bled like every month because it's painful.
Right. That's why you see a lot of these athletes who like blood dope, all of a sudden they'll start getting all these cardiovascular problems, on heart attack, because as I increase the cell, the blood gets harder to push. So the heart's working harder, your blood pressure's climbing. So if it isn't, if your body isn't accommodated to that, then you start ending with cardiovascular problems. So people at high altitudes usually not only have a larger blood count, have a larger heart, their blood vessels are more elastic, have larger lungs. So everything comes as a package deal. Right? So it would be beneficial if everything else kept up with it. Right?
Does that increased demand for red blood cells have any negative impact? Like if you're a smoker, your body's constantly doing that?
The cells always take what they want every time. So if your tissues want oxygen, they will steal it from your blood, even at the expense of some other body part. So the blood goes where the metabolism is the highest. So if you're using a muscle, that will get fed. If your brain isn't, then brain gets nothing. So your cells will demand based upon their use. So if you don't have enough oxygen to go around, your body will destroy something to do the other parts. It's called the Bohr shift. So what happens is the cells will deliver it to the most needy part first. Then everyone else gets what's left over.
So would those with like sickle cell anemia have a higher red blood count?
They could.
Because it,
If they're not getting oxygen to their liver and kidney, okay? Make sense? An EPO? Okay, so speaking of EPO, let's go to a case study. Find the next page. We got a bunch of case studies today. We're going to talk about making blood. Find page 21. Okay, so we do some data analysis here, my friends. So we got this little girl, problems, and they take her to a lab and they do a bunch of tests. So we're going to go down and list what these tests are for. So the first one is hematocrit. That's one you're going to do in lab. You'll just have to understand. So can someone tell me what hematocrit measures? Very good. It's the percent of RBCs in the blood. So your hematocrit is a percentage. How much of your blood is the red stuff? So our girl has 28% RBCs in her blood. So the blood cells, red blood cells take up 28% of her blood. Anyone know what normal is?
35. First line.
Let me show you a picture. On the very first picture I showed you, it actually had the value. How much of that blood is the red stuff? That's about normal. So the average person, in lab you have to memorize the range, 47 plus or minus 7. But most people have about 45% of your blood is red. The other part is the other stuff. So our girl has 28% of her blood is red. And that's very, very, high or low? Low. That's low. So she has basically half of the RBC she should have. So what do RBCs carry? Oxygen. So if I have half the oxygen, what would you expect me to do as a symptom? Let's see. Would I be fatigued? Yeah. Would I have loss of stamina? Yeah. That's why I have half the oxygen. I'm going to get fatigued quicker. Right? Now, we have to learn hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein in the RBC. Anyone know what the job of hemoglobin is? To carry the oxygen. So the RBC is the cell, the hemoglobin is the protein in the cell. Okay. So I'm going to show you a picture of hemoglobin. But this is the protein that's within the cell. Don't draw this unless you really just don't want a life. That's a hemoglobin molecule. It's a quaternary protein, all these bends and stuff. That's irrelevant. That's the thing inside your RBC. I'm interested in this thing. What is that? That's iron. So where's the iron found? It's in the what? It's in the hemoglobin. These are irons. So my hemoglobin contains iron. Why does it need iron? Let's look on the far right.
Binds with O2.
That's where the oxygen binds. So the hemoglobin carries the oxygen by sticking it on iron. So the iron is the molecule in the hemoglobin that binds to the oxygen. Right? So if we go back to our girl in her case study, we measured her hemoglobin and her iron. That's why they're related. So the iron binds to oxygen. Right. So the cell contains hemoglobin, the hemoglobin contains iron. All right? Then look here, her bone marrow. How much iron's in her bone marrow? Okay, so where do blood cells come from? So my bone marrow has no iron, it can't make what? Can't make the hemoglobin. And therefore, if I can't make hemoglobin, I can't make blood cells, right? So I have iron in my blood, but I don't have enough in my bone marrow. Therefore, I can't make new cells. I can't make new hemoglobin. Does that make sense? So in case you're curious about the numbers, these are each down by half. So this should be about 18, that should be about 32. So she has half of all these values. So your job is on number 2 and 3. You and your team have a minute to figure out what we call this disorder and how she got it. Put it on the board. What do you call it when you don't have enough?